Welcome to another episode of Mental Health Mondays. It is the week of February 27th, which means it's the first week of March this week, if I do my calculations correctly. Welcome back. I know I took a week off. Apologize about that. Had some family in town. Well, not my family, but my girlfriend's family. So just spent the week actually living life and took a little break, a little pause from everything else, from music, from the podcast and stuff like that. And that's always difficult for me. It's always hard for me to have grace with myself when life takes over and you're kind of it almost feels like you're a passenger instead of you're in the driver's seat. I don't know if that's really the best way to put it. When family's around, it kind of realigns what's important in your life, especially like in my circumstance, living in a big city and like pursuing something great, which we all are in our own way, but specifically with like a lofty goal, like being in the music industry and being a musician and stuff. It can get overwhelming at times, or almost like you're so focused chasing this one thing that seems unattainable, and all your effort and all your energy and all your time is put into this one thing. And then family comes around and it kind of brings you back down to earth. And it's like, oh yeah, this is way more important. This side of life is what really matters, what's true and real. And I don't know if it's like an ego thing where sometimes I get too caught up on the things I think I want or the things I think I'm supposed to be doing. And then I'm forced to slow down by something like family coming to visit. And it reminds me like, oh yeah, no, this is 100 times more important. Being happy day to day and, like taking the time to spend time with those that you love and those that you care about, and spend time with people who you like, spend time with the people who you love, care about. I don't know if that made sense, but so it's been a tough thing for me this past couple weeks because like, even though I consciously was like, all right, while her family's here, I'm not going to focus on creating content and making music and stuff, which I don't know. I just have this constant battle in my head. Like, okay, well, what should be my main priority in each given moment? And they all kind of blur together and it all becomes one massive, like screaming thing in my head, instead of realizing like there's time for this and there's time for this and there's time for this, and like allowing myself to take the time I need to do different things, not just this thing. And this thing being what I'm pursuing in my career and my life, because all those other things matter and probably matter more. But so it's been a struggle this past week. Well, it wasn't a struggle. In the first part of the visit was great. It was just fun. But as the week went on and I was starting to like judge myself for not being productive, even though I set out to take this week aside and not worry about those kinds of things, because I know they're not as important as family time and sharing love and like happiness and having fun and actually creating memories in life, not just locking myself in this room. But it's easier said than done, at least for me, to accept that and not like be too hard on myself in the times where I'm not being as productive as maybe as I usually am or as I would like to be. I don't know the answer to that. That's something that I constantly try to like unlock in myself. Like, I don't know, being present. I don't know. All right. Sorry. I have a little bit of a cold too. So like knowing what needs to get done, knowing the steps that I need to take, or thinking I know at least, just knowing the amount of work that is required to do what I want to do in my life. And then also on the flip side, knowing that it's okay that it doesn't all happen at once, and that there are times where you need to step away from it and just live life completely unrelated to your goals and your career aspirations. And I feel like that's my biggest problem with my anxiety and depression, is I constantly feel the clock ticking behind my back. And like I was watching baseball this morning, spring training. I'm a nerd. I'm a loser. I know. And the new rule in baseball is that now there's a pitch timer, meaning that the pitcher only has a certain amount of time before he has to throw the next pitch just to speed up the game, because a lot of people our age find it boring, which I understand, but it's my favorite sport, so I don't find it boring at all. But I was watching that this morning and realizing like that the feeling of, oh, I have to throw the next pitch is exactly how I feel in my day-to-day life of like, oh no, it's come, like, even though there is no clock other than life itself is going to end one day, there's no real clock in terms of achieving the things you want to achieve. And like, there's no timer on happiness. And I keep applying this fake timer on happiness. Like I'm seeing the seconds tick by and thinking, oh, I'm not getting enough done, or I'm not doing enough. I'm not putting in enough work or enough time and enough effort. And it's robbing me of happiness outside of this thing that I'm pursuing. But on the flip side, I don't know how to balance accepting being happy and not becoming complacent, because I'm scared. It's like in the moments where I'm having fun and just enjoying life, it's like something in my brain forces me to think about, well, you're not working right now. You're not doing what you need to do to achieve the things you want. And that's like a really intimidating, scary thing to balance out. Because as I said, there are things that are way more important than me and my goals. But to me, in my own solo journey in life, that is the most important thing to me. But also, I don't want to be miserable. So it's like, I'm scared. I'm always scared that like I'm not going to be happy until I get to where I think I want to go. But at the same time, I know that when I get there, there'll just be new problems that arise, new things that I have to worry about, new anxieties, new more work, more time and effort put into these things. So I'm trying my best to like remind myself, like, dude, slow down. It already didn't happen when I thought it would happen. I never thought when I started making music, when April 94, the BEC started way back, that I'd be 28 years old and not be at a different place in my career. And it's difficult to accept that, like, even though I know it's the right answer, it's hard to accept that everyone has their own story, everyone has their own timeline, everyone has their own book, and yours is never going to look exactly like one that you've read before. And I have a hard time not comparing myself. It's not like I compare myself to other people. I'm like, I wish I had what they had. I compare myself to other people and I'm like, oh, I'm not there yet. And why am I not there yet? What am I doing wrong? And, oh, it must be that I'm not doing enough. And in some cases, that is true. But in other cases, it's like, dude, shut up. You're putting in the work. You just have to kind of trust the process and realize that you're not going to be able to control the end goal, but only so much. The only thing you can do is control the work you put in. So again, it's a tricky balance between, yes, all you can control is the work you put in. But then there are times where I feel or know that I'm not putting in enough work to get to where I want, if I want to achieve the things that I want to achieve. But also, sometimes you can't. Sometimes you do need to just stop and breathe and spend time with family or go do fun things. So it's like, it's this constant struggle in my head of, am I doing enough? And then also, like, sometimes I get caught up on, again, being 28. A 40-year-old looks at me and laughs and is like, what are you talking about? You're a kid still. But teetering on that side of I'm not a kid anymore, and knowing like, or feeling like, not knowing, I don't know anything, feeling like, all right, well, at some point I got to like grow up and be an adult. But it's like, I don't want to ever stop. I kind of truly think that I'd rather be, I don't know, I'd rather live in a I live in a nice apartment, but I'd rather live in a shitty 1-bedroom apartment and be miserable if it means I'm still pursuing what I want, than like take a different route, even though that route is there for me to take if I ever wanted to. And I think it's an ego thing, because it's like, I feel like that would, to me in my head, that would almost be like accepting defeat. And I don't want to do that. And the great ones never do that. And again, that is my ego talking. Like, I think I am great. I think I but I think I am worth having a bigger audience, or like an opportunity to have my life completely centered around music and have a career in it and not have to worry about money and bills and stuff outside of making music. And so like, I don't know. I feel like if I ever were to stop, it'd be like I wasted my time. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard. It just beats you down. Like taking up the path less traveled can be very intimidating. I mean, it is intimidating. That's why it's the path less traveled. But taking the path less traveled can really beat you down, especially with your mental health, because it doesn't seem like there's anything laid out ahead of you that is the obvious right decision. So you're constantly questioning your decisions and questioning, have I been wasting time? Should I turn around and go back and take the other path? And I don't want to. I want to keep charging forward and forging through the forest and like figuring it out as I go along. But it's, even though I'm not alone, it can feel lonely. It could feel like I'll never get to the next part of the path, or that there's no signs that say like, oh, up 3 miles ahead, you go this way. It just is like a constant unknown. Each step I take, I don't know if I'm heading in the right direction, and that's been really difficult for me. But also I know that part of the reason that I'm feeling so down on myself about that right now is because I took this week off and didn't do anything. I didn't get in the studio at all. The studio was a closet for the last week because we had company, and so it kind of had to be that way. So I know that a week from today, after kind of getting back into my normal routine and getting in the studio and grinding and like getting back to doing some of the things I was doing before that felt like progress, I won't feel this low about it in a week. But right now at this moment, I do feel kind of intimidated and lonely and like just scared, I guess, or like not scared, but like unsure. I don't know what the correct pronunciation is. Unsure. I feel almost unsure about like what's next. And I also know that doesn't really matter. What's next doesn't really matter. It's what's now that matters. But try convincing yourself that when you have a million things you want to do in your life. It's very difficult. It's been very hard for me. It's almost impossible. I don't know that I need to convince myself that whatever's coming next is like correct. I just have to have faith that whatever's coming next is what's supposed to come next, and just have the ability to step back when it comes and be like, okay, well now here's how I navigate to the next step. But it is difficult. Drinking coffee, of course, every episode, but it's not normal. Well, Jay's mom is Dominican, so it was Bustelo with canela, which is like cinnamon. I don't know why I said that so white just now, because I've been speaking Spanish all week and it's been going pretty well. But it's so good. It's delicious. You don't need cream, nothing. I know some people just drink it black anyway. Sure, oh, you're so tough. Cool, good for you. You might as well join the Marines. It's so much better though. It's delicious. So I try to do it myself in the Keurig, and it's not nearly as good. It's very gritty. I put too much cinnamon in. Put too much cinnamon in, and it feels like I have chalk on my teeth. So that's another thing. But yeah, I don't know, just struggling to just accept my place. And that's been the theme since I started the podcast. But I guess in some ways, like if this was therapy, if you were my therapist listening to me, or if that's kind of how I use this every week, is to get my thoughts out like that, this would be the recurring theme in my life, that I have such a hard time accepting my place in time. And I think it really is just an ego thing. Like I think as much as I'm self-conscious and like at times feel like I hate myself, which is horrible. You shouldn't feel that way, by the way. Don't hate yourself. You're beautiful, you're wonderful, you're amazing. But there are times where I feel so self-conscious or like I hate myself. At the same time, I have so much confidence in myself and think that I am the greatest. Jay always messes with me, like that I have main character syndrome. And I really think that's where a lot of my pain and anxiety comes from. Is like, well, I'm not worthy of being the hero in this journey. even though it's my journey, no matter what, I'm the hero in this journey. Everyone is the hero of their own journey. It's like, I think that's where I lose myself a bit, or lose the ability to experience happiness, because I'm like, yeah, but that's not what the hero would be doing in this. I don't know. It's like we all have those feelings sometimes, because like we're all, as much as we all have each other to lean on, or if you're lucky, or you have people to lean on in relationships, whatever, like we are all alone in our own spaceship through time. And so, the classic expression of like, you came in this world alone, you're going to leave this world alone, which is grim but true, in the sense of your soul in this body, this flesh suit, came into the world like through whatever portal of life and the universe into this suit, and it will leave through this suit alone as well. But I don't know. It's like hard for me almost to accept that at some point your story does intertwine with other people's stories, and it becomes your story together, not just your own personal journey. Which one is real? I guess it's both. I guess certain aspects of our life are solo, and certain aspects of our life are not at all lonely or alone, even though they can feel that way at times. I feel like this past week kind of showed me that too, because Jay's little brother was here as well. And so it was almost like, I don't know if I should say all this stuff. I don't know if they feel comfortable. I don't know, whatever. Her little brother was here as well. And so when there's a kid around, 90% of the focus is on like making sure they're having fun and are happy, and as it should be. And so I enjoyed the role of like aiding in that. Like we went to Universal, and my whole point the whole time was like, I am a grown-ass man. I've been here 5 times. I don't need to do anything. I've done all the things here. I want to just make sure we do anything he wants to do, because he's a kid, and it should be like that. And it was like a sobering thing all week to be selfless in a way of like, I don't care if I have a good time at all. I just want, and I did have a great time. I don't mean it like that, but I'm saying I don't care if anything is focused or centered on me at all. In fact, I don't want it to be. I want it to be focused and centered on this child, this kid, and make sure that you're enriching their life, because you know what it was like to be a kid and wanting to, experience things and have fun. And sometimes you don't know what you want or want to do, or you don't even know what you like as a kid sometimes. So it's like aiding in that process of like, this will be fun for you, I think. Do you want to try this? It was like nice this week to have that experience, almost like a preview of like what fatherhood would be like. And I imagine that when you become a father, I have some friends that are dads, but not many. But just listening to people speak about it all my life, it does like open your eyes and your world to a completely different way of being and understanding. And I think in a way I need to embrace part of that in my own life, not by having a kid anytime soon, but in the sense that I make it all about me, not in a selfish way, not in a like, I don't give a fuck what anyone else wants, I'm going to do what I want. But in terms of my own inner monologue, I make it so much about me, when in reality, there's so many other souls floating through life too. And we're all like trying to make our way and figure out our place in the world. And I just think that you could draw a parallel to being a parent and like nurturing other people's lives and experiences versus having it all so focused inward. Because even a relationship is like that too, but even then, when you're in a long-term relationship, I feel like there's at least similarities to that and marriage. It's not the same thing. The legal contract does matter. It does change things. It does put an added dimension of, I don't know if it's pressure or what it is, but generally speaking, being in a long-term committed relationship feels like marriage at times, as it should. You committed and commitment to that relationship, and like the whole aspect of not being selfish and being selfless, and making sure that your partner feels secure and happy and protected, versus when you're single and you can focus all your energy on yourself. But even when you are in a long-term relationship, there are still so many moments and experiences that are still inward. And though I think I am a good partner, it does beg the question in my mind, like, am I focusing too much of my energy on myself? And in reality, is that really what my life journey is supposed to be about? Is it really supposed to be about me and my goals, my lofty things I want to accomplish? Or should it be more centered around the aspect of family and love and spreading love and sharing love? I think the answer lies somewhere in between. I feel like almost sometimes that's why marriages might fail, looking at it from a different perspective, that people lose sight of their own journey completely when they're in a relationship, and both people almost end up resenting the other because they feel that they've both bent so far towards their partner that they're like losing a bit of themselves, or that there's no energy or effort being put towards themselves. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes it is one-sided. But I feel like even when it's not one-sided and both people are putting all their energy and effort towards the other person, they both still feel slighted, or like that they're both putting in more time and effort and energy than the other person is, even if it's not true. And I think that maybe that's why a lot of relationships fail, because rather than being able to accept, like, no, it's very even, we're both adjust, we both like sacrifice, that's the word I'm looking for, sacrifice for one another. Sometimes it's like hard for us to accept that the other person is putting in as much as we are. And I think maybe that's why a lot of relationships fail. But also, a lot of relationships fail because even when both people are putting a lot of time and effort on the other person, neither one of them are taking enough time for themselves. So it's all about balance. I say that all the time. There's no one right way or one right path in this vein. But I think I feel like right now maybe I'm too focused on my own personal goals, not to the point where it's at the detriment of my relationship, but it's at the detriment of my mental health currently, that I'm so focused on what I want to do and what I want to achieve, instead of like taking a deep breath and realizing there's so many other things going on in the world that aren't about me at all. But again, see, this is the devil's advocate in my head constantly. At the same time, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't take pride in yourself and shouldn't like put yourself first in a lot of situations and make sure you're doing right by you. Just because, like, you should still feel important and realize you are important while realizing you are not the most important thing. But my extremist mind, my like addictive personality, it seems like all or nothing, one way or the other. I just got real self-conscious. I don't know how I look, but it doesn't matter, but it's real. It's something I want to try to start doing during the podcast. During the episode with Zach, I started having a panic attack in my head. Really silly, but it was like a depersonalization. I don't know. I call it a panic attack. It was like a depersonalization attack or episode. And I didn't say anything to him, but while he was speaking, giving like a really beautiful, insightful answer to something I said or asked, in the back of my head, I'm like, am I a robot? If my skin feels weird, are these my hands? This whole crazy thing that I go through. But I didn't say anything. And afterwards, I kind of regretted not saying anything, because I'm like, this podcast is about mental health. I want to be transparent and real. And so from going forward, I'm going to maybe mention times where I feel a little weird in my head, because it's like, oh, hey, you're watching this, you're listening to this. This is what anxiety and depression sound like. Me. At this second. So I'm not feeling too anxious right now, but I feel pretty self-conscious. But also it's because all week, it's like when someone visits you, I don't know if, let me take a sip of coffee. I don't know if you feel like this too, but I feel like when someone visits, especially if you live in like a fun city, not like if you still live in your hometown and people from out of town come to visit you that are from there too. Like when I go home, or back when my mom still lived in Rochester and I'd go home, it wasn't like there was this big effort put on them to like make sure I have fun or enjoy the city or see things. It's like, this is my home. I know what's good. I know what to go do and stuff. But when you live in another place and family comes to visit, there's almost this aspect of like you're on vacation too. Like we went to do touristy things, went to hike to the Hollywood sign, which I like to do anyway. So that stuff's fun. No, not complaining about it at all, but it almost has this added pressure of like you're on vacation too, even though you're not, and you have to like take care of your normal day-to-day shit as well. So with that said, I ate like a monster all week. The best stuff. It was great. I don't regret it. It was fantastic, and it's not like now that they leave, I'm gonna like fall into it. I don't hope. But I feel self-conscious because I hadn't really worked out a lot this week and ate nothing but amazing food. Mangu, this Dominican dish. Oh, it's the best. I could eat it every day. I understand why like all the Dominican baseball players are like thick. Like there's not a lot of skinny ripped ones. I feel like most of them are like thicker, like bigger dudes, like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. if you want to Google that. Like he's not fat by any means, but he's a big thick boy. Like that was dumb. Like me, I got big thick legs and stuff. But anyways, I love, see, there's an ego thing right there. I just try to compare myself to a professional baseball player with no grounds at all. He is an elite athlete. I am nothing compared to him physically, but I couldn't help myself but brag about my naturally big legs in comparison to a Dominican baseball great. Makes no sense. Anyway, after eating mango a couple times now, it's like I can understand why they're that big, because it's just like the heartiest meal. It's plátanos, so plantains mashed up with like butter and other things, and it literally tastes like mashed potatoes, but they're not. They're plantains with fried salami and like a fried egg on top with avocado, and this fried cheese. I know that sounds weird, or it might sound weird if you've never had it. It's not fried cheese like a mozzarella stick. It's literally a slab of cheese that you fry in butter or oil in a frying pan, and it doesn't like melt and get covered on the pan. It like keeps its structure. It's so good. I could eat it every day. But if I ate it every day, I wouldn't be Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I would be fat me. So it's not possible to eat it every day. But it is delicious, and I could. Well, yeah. We always say that. People always say that about foods they like and things like it's impossible. For example, Sweet Greens, delicious salad place out here. Way too expensive, whatever. But if as far as like quick food goes, when you are in your 20s and you don't want to cook every single night, it's a good alternative to getting something nasty, like something bad for you. And it's delicious. It's a good salad. Like it's not just like lettuce with dressing. It's a bunch of good stuff in the salad. And you think you could eat it every day, like, well, this is pretty good for me, other than maybe like the dressing, but you could get around that a bit. And even if all you're eating is salad and the worst thing that's on there is dressing, and it's not like a pound of blue cheese, it's okay. It's still very good for you. You think you could eat it every day. We've gone through times where we literally had it like 5 times in 8 days or whatever, and then by the like 6th or 7th time, you're like, I need something else. So I say I could eat it every day, but I'm sure it'd get old, just like anything. I feel that way about like leasing a car too. Like her mom and I were alone in the car, which is another funny thing I'll bring up in a second. And she asked if I would if I owned the car, if it was a lease or whatever. And I lease a car. I've never owned a car. Maybe I owned a car once, crashed it before I moved out here. But my grandma used to do this too. I feel same thing with like, other than eventually owning a home, I like not staying in one thing too long. Like I like the aspect of here's your car for a few years, and then in a few years you'll get another different nice new car. Even though it's not smart financially to do that, everyone always says that. Like every person who has their shit together is always like, no, you need to own the stuff you have. Otherwise, I'm literally paying for nothing, which is kind of true. But I like it. I like change in that way. It makes, to me, when I don't change, I feel very stagnant and stuck, and like nothing is going forward. Even as something as simple as leasing a car versus owning it. And even when I know it doesn't make financial sense. Same thing with like an apartment. even when I've loved apartments I've lived in out here, there's eventually a thought in me that's like, this feels too comfortable. I like the feeling of like new. And it's definitely just, it's like placebo effect almost. Like it's not new anymore, or there's no real value that comes from like living in a new place. But there's something about like fresh new, oh, we're setting this up still, and now this looks nice and all that. And part of me likes to think like, or like I don't know, like I like the new part of it, but then there's also part of me that's like, we're trying to get this little reading nook to look the right way, and we're not going to live here forever. So part of me is like, what's it all for? The nihilist in my head is like, none of this even matters. But in general, I do kind of like moving around and things being new and not being stuck in one thing for too long. So I wonder sometimes when time comes and I have the means to buy a house, and like, I also kind of like the fact that like, even though, when you live in an apartment, you sign a lease, so you're expected to stay there for a certain amount of time. There is a feeling of, well, if I wanted to, I could get up right now and leave. I could move to East Jabib if I wanted to. I don't know that I'm going to move there. I don't even know where that is. I just know it's an expression that I like when other people say. It's funny to pick an obscure place, and that's the one they reference, East Jabib. I don't even know if it's a real place. It might be. I'm going to Google it because I always forget that now I have the means to Google things as the podcast is going. Is East Jabib a real place? East Jabib. It is. It's East Jabib, not East Jabib. Huh. Oh, no, it's a song. Oh, it's not even a real place? A fictitious town that is far away from where you currently are. East Jabib. All right. Well, there it is, folks. East Jabib, not a real place. Thanks for listening. Fuck, I don't even remember where I was going. I guess I'm going to Easter Bit. Yeah, man. Life's weird. Life is funny. Another self-conscious thing. I just cut my hair. I might be really shiny looking or very scaly and dry. One or the other. I could have stuff on my head. Hair everywhere. I don't know. Doesn't matter. But trying to be transparent. Feeling a little weird right now. Easter Bip. It's a song by Red Admiral. Who knows? But yeah, I like the thought of being able to get out of a place if I wanted to. Not on some like apocalyptic shit. Because if there was an apocalypse here, there's no getting out. I would just sit in my house with my girlfriend. She would probably, I think she has more of a fight or flight response, like a fight response than me. I definitely kind of have a flight. This is the first time I ever admitted this. This is a funny thing. Here's a good piece of truth for you. Until this moment, I've never publicly admitted that when it comes to fight or flight, I definitely think I feel flight more. It's not, I have felt fight at times, and in the sense of like, if something has to happen at that moment, I will get it done. Like, I'll fight, I'll do what I have to do in that moment. But like, generally speaking, I feel like I definitely have an urge to just be like, all right, see ya. I'll just get up and leave this situation. So I think that if the apocalypse hit, and living in Los Angeles, my first thought would be, see, in that way, fight or flight, when it's an apocalypse, it's a little foggy, the semantics of it, because fight is flight. If you get what I'm saying. Like, if I'm in my apartment and all of a sudden we see on the news, we get an update on our phone, or like look outside and everything's on fire and we're gonna die if we don't leave, or there's zombies, whatever apocalyptic situation you want to insert in this, I feel like flight or like leaving is fighting. Like that is like, oh, we gotta get up, we gotta get out of here and do something about it. Versus in the terms of fight or flight response, the flight response really would be, I'm going to stay here and just accept my fate and be, or like, this is a mental health podcast, I don't want to make light of it, but, or like you see in those shows, like they'll find a family that said, fuck it, and took their own lives because they felt the alternative of living in chaos and fear was not worth it. I tend to think that would probably be my response, but also you don't know until you're in that situation. Maybe I would be like, no, we all have the instinct and desire to survive through all terrible things. That's the only reason why any of us are here still. It's because our ancestors at one point in time fought a bear or fucking something, or escaped Nazi Germany or something like that. I don't know. I'm just saying that I think that that's a self-conscious ego thing that I deal with, not regularly, but like when I ponder things like that, or I'll look back at certain situations I've been in and been like, I wouldn't necessarily want to admit that my instinct was like, I just don't want to, excuse me, I'm sorry. That was rude. I just don't want to deal with this, so like, fuck this, I'm out. All right, example. When I was younger, my sister had 2 pit bulls. I hope she listens to this. This is actually fucking hilarious. She had 2 pit bulls and a white Mustang at one point. Like, just good old trash. If you really think about Kate, I love you. I'm just messing with you, but that's very funny to ponder now, thinking of like when you were in your early 20s and like you thought like, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. That's what I want. I want 2 pit bulls and a white Mustang. And I don't mean a horse. I mean like a shitty old white Mustang, which by the way, also when a convertible, a black hardtop convertible white Mustang that I also thought was super cool when she had it. But looking back, it's kind of funny. Anyways, she had these 2 pit bulls, and we had a dog named Keisha. Rest in peace, Keisha. She was great. And like the dog, Kate would come to visit me and my mom before, like, this is a long time ago. And she'd bring the dogs. And both dogs were a little wild, but like they were fine. You know, some people have dogs where it's like, don't bring them around any other dogs, but like they're sweet with us, so it's okay. And so there was a time where it's always over food with dogs. It's always over, like, that's their instinct of fight or flight. Of I don't know if there's a dog next. I don't know. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked here. Even my mom's dog currently, Dexter, the greatest dog of all time, and Ella, purebred Great Dane, she's sweet, but she's also a nutcase. They don't fight over food, but even them, it's like they both know they have their own food bowl. The second Ella's done wolfing down her food, she immediately runs over to Dexter's and like bosses him out of the way to get more food. It's just their instinct of like, maybe I'll never get to eat again, so I better eat all I can right now. So often dogs are food aggressive around other dogs. That was the circumstance in this dumb, stupid story that I decided to tell. Her one dog, actually, I don't remember which one it was. They were both there. There was a treat involved or something, and it made the dogs fight. One of them or both of them attacked Keisha, our dog, and I was like there. I don't remember quite exactly where everyone was in the situation, but I remember being very close. But seeing a dog fight in person, not like Michael Vick shit, or like a sanctioned dog fight, but I'm saying like seeing a dog like really attack another dog, the noises and it's crazy. It's so scary to see, especially I was younger. I was like, I can't remember. It's always at the timeline I use whether my dad was still here or not. I can't remember if it was before or after my dad passing away, but if not, it was right around it. So I was anywhere from the age of 12 to 15, 16. I hope it wasn't 16. I think it was less. I think it was before my dad died. And so my first instinct was like, rather than being like, hey, get off of each other, I was fucking terrified. I ran away. And the way my sister and I remember the story, which is funny, is that like I came back out of the room with like a drumstick or something like that was going to get them off of each other. I don't know. But the way I like to remember the story is I ran to go get the drumstick to go, just to have something I didn't want to be, I'm not saying like I would beat a dog or anything like that, but in that moment it was scary. I didn't know. I was a young kid. I didn't know how to possibly help the situation and save my dog from her crazy dogs. So the way I like to remember the story is that I ran and got a drumstick to come back and be like it was my sword and I was, King Arthur or something, and I was going to fight this dragon and like get her off my dog. But I'm pretty sure the reality of the situation was I was terrified and I'm like, well, you guys are going to have to take care of that. I'm going to go run in the other room. And my defense mechanism of like, no, I'm not scared, I didn't just run away from this, was I picked up a drumstick and then came out of the room when the fight was over. And again, I don't know. I think it's just an ego thing. Like especially being a male, you want to think that like I'm a warrior and I'll fight through any situation. And in general, like if it was life or death, or I was in public and like my girlfriend was being threatened physically, I would obviously take the means I have to protect her. But my first inclination would be, let's get the fuck out of this situation. I'm not The Rock. I'm not a superhero. Like, I don't know if this guy's got a gun or something, you know? So I guess maybe we should revise fight or flight. There's got to be some middle ground. It's not just you're terrified and you sprint away from the situation or you jump right into action. I think I'm more of a like, let's step back for at least 1 second and assess what would be our best option for survival. Maybe we should run away, or maybe we have no choice but to fight head on this thing. But I guess it's the first time I've ever said it out loud, because it is like a silly thing that I'm self-conscious about sometimes, of like, I don't like confrontation. I don't. And sometimes it comes to my detriment, because there are like the detriment of my relationships, because I mean, yeah, it's actually a perfect example. There are times when I'll get into an argument, whether it's Jay and I, we've gotten into an argument, and I hate confrontation, even though, like in the moment during an argument, if you're yelling at each other, which is terrible, but it happens sometimes, and it's this ugly situation. I'm not talking about that. Afterwards, though, or beforehand, before it gets to that boiling point, rather than talk through things, I think sometimes my initial reaction is to completely shut down. No words. I can't even, there's so many trains of thought going through my head that I can't even pick one out and say anything. It's like I literally don't have words. I'm not capable of speaking. At least that's how it feels at times during those situations. And looking back on certain things that have happened in my life, I regret that is my default action, because 99% of the time, it makes the situation worse than just being able to address it as it's happening. And I've had really important relationships to me that, again, it's like I don't think that I was 100% on me by any means, but I also tend to think it's not 100% on the other person. There's always three sides to every story, all that good, generic bullshit. But I think that looking back, it's like, if this just got addressed in the moment that we all had a feeling about something, then it could have been saved. And I feel a sense of guilt, not necessarily to the other people, but to, I guess, yes, to other people, but also to myself, of like, why didn't you just man up and say something? And I think that's a feeling that we all have in one way or another, is we do tend to avoid or I don't know, some people are naturally confrontational and it's too much. But on the flip side, where I think I lie, is I'm like, I just want everyone to be happy. So I'm just going to either pretend everything's okay or compartmentalize this to be like, this doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. And it might not. But at the same time, there are times when, this doesn't matter, let's just let it go, turns into something bigger with each time that that something like that happens again. So I think that's part of fight or flight too, is like, that's flight, not wanting to like be vulnerable or like hear. It's like when you have to have difficult conversations with people you care about, I think it's an ego thing that you like, even though I really think I can admit when I'm wrong, hearing someone else's perspective is like frightening or scary. And it's like, we avoid hearing that and just think, well, in the grand scheme, this isn't that big of a deal. Let's just all let it go. But sometimes it's not possible for everyone in the situation to let it go, and it needs to be discussed. It needs to be talked over and smoothed out, whatever, versus just sweeping it under the rug and flying away from it. So there's definitely been many times in my life where I've done that. And it's also hard when there's other people's also, again, back to like, we all have our own journey and our own story that we're going through life with. When that means that every single person involved in whatever situation has their own journey, like clouding how they're seeing it. Not clouding in a bad way, but like they're looking at it through their lens. So it's impossible to ever control how other people are going to see it. And sometimes that makes me, because I am well aware of that, I feel like I adapt that in my life as much as possible, because I think it's the right way to look at things. I know that I'm not going to always be able to control the way other people think, and I shouldn't want to control the other way people think, but I know that I won't ever be able to fully influence the way other people think to see it how I do. So that there's times where rather than even try to just bounce things off of each other, I just give up. And I'm just like, okay, that's how you feel. It is what it is. But also, I think the reason why is because sometimes you feel like you know someone and you know that maybe they aren't receptive or open to hearing your side of it to a point of accepting your side of it and accepting that they don't have to be completely congruent to each other. There can be disagreement and you can still move forward. And then there's situations where if you disagree on a certain thing or subject or whatever that's going on between you and this other person, it's over. Like, you can't disagree. It can't continue if you disagree to this level. Maybe there's no situation where a disagreement should completely end a relationship, but there are certainly times where it feels like, well, if we can't see this thing the same, then there's no moving forward in this relationship, whatever kind of relationship it might be. I don't know. So sometimes I think my fight or flight response does set me up for failure. But yeah, that dog story. Dog fights are scary, man. They're very frightening. They're very loud and drooly. All right, let's take a break. I feel like I just talked really fast for really long, and now I feel tired. Also, when I start the podcast and I have a couple sips of the coffee, it's fine. But then as the podcast goes on and I stay stuck in this chair and I have 45 more sips of the coffee, I start to get a little antsy. Dude, waiting online sucks. Okay, here's another thing. Universal Studios is fun. Okay, there's no way around it. It's cool. I like it. I used to never be afraid of rides until all this anxiety and weird stuff happened when I was 18. Before that, I never cared. I went to like Cedar Point is always a place that people like. It's for like legitimate crazy roller coasters. And I've ridden every ride there. It was so much fun. Never had a problem with it. Ever since my depersonalization stuff started, there's just a different sense. It's not like I'm afraid of dying on the roller coaster. I don't really care about that at all. It's like the anxiety leading up to it. It just like is too much for me to the point where like I'm scared that something can happen. I'm going to have a heart attack or something. It's like a hypochondria thing. But this time at Universal was the first time that I was like, fuck it. I kind of let go of the fear, and it was only fun. But dude, waiting sucks. And I'm a patient person. I really am. As much as I don't know if we have a relationship and you're watching this and you might not think that, I promise you I'm patient. Because there are plenty of times where like in the back of my head I'm screaming and I just want to not be doing whatever I'm doing, but I have the ability to breathe through it and just kind of like accept what it is at that moment. Like waiting in line, traffic, everyone hates traffic. I hate traffic, but at the same time I feel like I'm a pretty good way of dealing with it, and I'm like, I just accept it. I stopped trying to rush home after work or whatever. It's like, oh, I'm going to be here anyway, so fuck it. But with that said, we waited on a line for 2.5 hours. That was fucking horrible. Also, it was the end of the day. It was the last thing we were going to do. Because Nintendo Land I keep calling it that, Super Mario Land. No, it is. It's Super Nintendo Land. Super Nintendo World? Doesn't matter. What it is you have to fucking wait because it just opened. And it wasn't like on purpose that we were like, oh, let's go for the first week of that. It just happened to line up when her family was visiting. Shout out to Casey. Got us some tickets in the nick of time. Super helpful. I mean, he's the best. But the way it works right now is like it's so new Nintendo Land that it's not like you can go enter Universal and just go beeline it for like it's so busy right now that you have to have a ticket for Universal and then sign up for a time slot that you can enter Nintendo World. And when we got there, we did it the second we got there, which was first thing in the morning, and already the only time slot they had was 5:30 p.m., which is fine. We were going to be there all day anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But still, it's like, holy shit, that's 8 hours from now, whatever it was. I don't know the math exactly. So it was really cool, but it was an absolute clusterfuck. Like there's just so many people move. It was chaos. and like every little kid with their bracelet, which is cool. The interactive stuff, if you haven't looked into it at all, if that interests you, you should. It's really cool. But like it's not running smoothly and perfectly yet because it's so busy, because it's like a new thing. Obviously things take time to like figure out exactly the best way to go about things. But waiting 2.5 hours in line, it ruined the experience almost. Not in a, I hate to even say that, because it's like, it shouldn't. If you're at a theme park, that's most of your day is waiting. It just is what it is, unless you have the means to have a fast pass, which I think that might have been the last time I'll go to a theme park without one. And if I really want to go and I don't have the money, I'll just wait, because it's so worth it. Seeing these people, these kings and queens, pass you as a peasant in line, and it's like, you motherfucker, I have been waiting in this same spot, in this fucking Yoshi room. I don't even know how to describe it, because that's one thing about Universal and Disney and these big theme parks. The line is like an experience, but it would be an experience if we waited for an hour, not 2.5 hours, where you're staring at the same mushroom and you're like, this is no longer interesting and I hate Mario now all of a sudden. But anyway, seeing these people pass you over and over and over again, it's like, dude, fuck this. Next time I'm 100% getting a fast pass. But so it didn't ruin the experience in the sense of like, this sucks, but it's like, it kind of, you get to the point where you're like, I just want to get through this ride and get out of here. And that sucks, because it was like the thing we were looking forward to most all day, at least me and her little brother, because obviously her mom and her don't give a fuck about Mario. But me and her little brother were playing Mario Party all week, like getting ready for it and stuff. But that was a shame, because you wait so long that you're like, by the time you get to the ride, you're tired. It sounds silly. Listen, people are out there fighting wars and shit right now. But in relation to recreational activities, you're waiting all day. Your feet are tired. Like we walked 10 miles back and forth throughout the park all day, and now we're gonna wait in a line for 2.5 hours. No seats, no nothing, no interactive anything. Like there's only so many times you could play Heads Up and like guess Porcupine. It's the same shit over and over again. So it was a lot. It was a lot, but now my view on that Nintendo Land ride is skewed, because I don't know if I was just being a curmudgeon because I'm like, really, we waited this long for this, or if it really wasn't that. Like, it was cool. You have like a stupid little Mario helmet on, and when you get in, it's like a Mario Kart ride. So when you get into the actual, like, it's a 4-person Mario Kart, and it's like VR, so you put the glasses on, and where you look around, you like see other karts and other racers, and you have like a steering wheel, and you're like, shooting items. Where you look at is where you shoot the items, which in theory sounds really cool, but at the same time, I don't know, it was a little underwhelming almost, which is funny because like we're so spoiled. I'm so spoiled. Let me just say that. It was an incredibly intricate, awesome ride, but when you wait 2.5 hours, it's like, that's it. So I feel like my experience was tainted a little. And maybe in a year or something, 2 years, when I go back and it's not as chaotic, it'll be more fun. But at the same time, Harry Potter World is like, or the Wizarding World, which I'm obsessed with Harry Potter. I love Harry Potter. It's fun every time. When that first opened, it was the same way. But even now, those are still like the longest wait times for stuff like that, because it's so incredible. So I'm sure that it's going to be chaotic for a long time. I'm not trying to dissuade you from going. It was really cool, but like, maybe wait. If you're planning on going and doing that, maybe wait until it dies down a little. We were also there at the worst possible time. Literally the week it opened, sold out. But it was cool. It was cool. I liked that kind of stuff. So it was really cool. Like, the actual Nintendo Land itself looks amazing, with like the Mario hills and like the blocks everywhere and stuff. It's really cool. And I think it'll just get better with time as they smooth out like exactly how to do everything. I don't know. Doesn't matter? No, that's the thing. It doesn't matter. And I was kept telling myself, it was a good metaphor for life. It's like, we are not in control of how fast this line moves. We're on this line, and when the person in front of us moves, we'll be able to move a little. To the point where we were getting antsy because the people in front of us were moving, and the people in front of us were just taking their time and like not moving right away. And we were getting antsy, like, come on, move up a little. And it was all placebo. It's not like we're any further or closer from getting to ride the ride, whether they move up right away when the people in front of them move or not. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you're on a line and there's no end in sight, it doesn't really matter. It's like being at a stoplight and being annoyed because the person in front of you hasn't inched up a little closer, when in reality the light's still red anyway. And it's kind of like a metaphor for life, in the sense of like, we don't have control over how long the line is going to be. So you might as well just enjoy your place in line while you can. But when you wait for 2.5 hours, it's kind of hard. Even though that shit was pretty cool, it was tough. So if I could add anything, I would say that, especially being, I don't know why the last 20 minutes of this podcast turned into a fucking Nintendo Land review, a Nintendo Land review. But just, to me, it seems like knowing that people are going to have to wait like an hour or 2 hours on the line, and the fact that all the other stuff in Nintendo World is interactive if you get the wristband, which is kind of a bullshit thing if you think about it. You spend all this money to go to Nintendo World. Oh, by the way, if you want to do the fun stuff, you have to pay another $40 for a wristband. But like everything else in there is interactive. You'd think that on the line for the one ride in Nintendo Land that they would have some interactive stuff on that line, instead of just like a dark. It almost felt like you're in line at like a mini golf course. Or then there's some rooms that it felt like you're at like a shitty daycare. It was just like, I don't know. See, now I'm going back and forth between being an asshole and realizing that I should just enjoy it for what it was. Because it was cool. God, I feel fat. Ugh. Shut up, dude. There was a nice little example of my 5 inner monologues that I have going at one time. So yeah, I don't know. This one was kind of all over the place. I had to take that week off because family was in town, and that's more important. And like, I think maybe I should have been more transparent about that, or just like to spread that message too of like, hey, I'm not doing the podcast this week, not because I don't want to, but because life is more important than any of this other shit, than you scrolling through Instagram and seeing the 30-second recap of what I was talking about that week or whatever it might be. But that's where the pressure comes in, because I'm like, oh, in that time, 1 million people made 1 million videos and posted them every day and all that stuff. Sometimes I wish that like I was born a little sooner. And I don't want to spend too much time really pondering that, because that'll drive you crazy. That's not true. I was born exactly at the right moment. I am me. You know what I mean? Like, I was born when I was supposed to be born. But just in an interesting pondering sense, sometimes I feel like shit. Like, I just missed the window where it seemed like, at least from the outside perspective, that talent spoke a little more than it does now. And what I mean by that is, now it's always been about like how well you can network and like putting yourself out there and like taking the chances. And then there's someone who might be 1 million times more quote unquote talented than you in their room, too scared to take that leap, and they'll never become what, you know, they could because you took the chance and they didn't. There's always been a little bit of that, but it does seem like it used to be a little more like, you're in a band, go play live shows. Someone will be there in the crowd that is like, wow, you guys are very good. And things start happening for you. Whereas now it's like, if you don't do literally everything for yourself, like I've been trying to book a show, and like I could go play an open mic or something somewhere. That's fine. But with what I do musically, like it doesn't really work for that. Maybe I'm being stubborn and I could conform or like twist what I do to fit that a little better, but generally speaking, it doesn't work. Like, I'm not playing covers of songs and stuff. I'm not going to go play at like a bar while people are eating dinner. That's just not what I do. And it seems like now, like trying to book a show or just like looking into it a little more, it's like, if you don't have, I don't know, like if you don't have 1 million songs out or like a certain following or whatever, it's like, it's difficult. So which means like, if you're not doing all these things yourself constantly, all the time, every second, there's no such thing as like, you're really good, I like your music, just based on just what I hear from your music, you should play a show here. It's like, are you worth my time? Are you going to have eyes on you? I understand the ticket selling thing. Like, are you going to be able to sell tickets? Are you going to be able to put this on your Instagram and have more than 10 people see it? It's like, are you active on TikTok? All these things. Like, why would that matter if I'm going to play a live show for the people that are going to be in that room? And so sometimes I think like, fuck, man, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, things were different. Even when we were playing shows coming up, it was different. Of course, you had to sell a certain amount of tickets, but like none of that other stuff mattered as much. And it just goes to show like how difficult this shit really is. Being an independent artist, like you have to do everything yourself before anyone gives you a sniff. You have to already prove to to other people, whoever other people are, an agent, a manager that might want to work with you, booking agent, whatever it is, record label. You have to prove that, oh, I can do literally everything you guys are going to do for me by myself. But until they see that you can, they won't even they want to see a nearly completed project, like not project like an album, like you as a person, as a creator, as an artist. They want to see a nearly completed project and be like, okay, we can make money off of you because you already do all that stuff anyway. So if we put a little more time and effort and connections into this and this and this, it'll be profitable for us. Whereas it used to be like your talent kind of sold you to those types of people. Just like, they could just use you for that and knew that I don't know. I just feel like even when you're pitching yourself to like a label, which from the outside seems like you're a talented musician, the label takes you, puts you in the right rooms with the right people and the right connections, the right money towards the right things, and, see if the career could move on from then. Now it's like, hey, have you been doing this successfully? Do you already have a career that you really don't need us for, but you need a little extra push to take it to the next level? That's the only way that they will look at you at all. And so that being that I'm basically starting from scratch, that's a bit intimidating because now I can't even go off of the like April 94 stuff that we had achieved. Speaking of which, like our song with Grabbits is it's going to probably pass 1 million streams in the next couple weeks, which is really cool. That'll be the first, whatever, that's a weird subject. Anyways, it'll be the first 1 million stream anything that we ever had. But like now that I'm doing this completely on my own, that doesn't matter at all. So I can't even really use that as like something on the resume. I guess I could, but it's increasingly difficult to keep up with the Joneses, and you have to like do this thing. So even though I knew consciously this week, like I'm going to take this week off and just focus on being present with family and love and happiness and just enjoying the moment, that clock is always ticking in my head. And like, yeah, well, why you did that? And I think part of that's good. Like it pushes you to work hard because nothing worth having is achievable without hard work. But it is something that affects your mental health because it's like, well, in that time that you didn't do anything, 1 billion other people did 1 billion other things towards what you want. And I think what I also need to get rid of is the feast or famine mentality, because thinking like, oh, well, if they do it, then there won't be room for me. That's not true. I am me. I am my own artist. I am my own person. And there is an audience out there that will like and respect what I do with my craft and my talent and my love for music, regardless of who else is doing what else they're doing. It doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. It matters what I do and what I use my time for and what I, can channel creatively and hopefully make content and music and all that shit that other people appreciate and can positively impact their life. All the other shit doesn't matter. And I just have to constantly remind myself of that because I get caught up on the result quite a bit, as we all do in whatever we're doing in life. So we'll get there one day. I have faith that I at one point in my life will be able to accept my place in life. Right now I'm struggling a bit with it, but that's just part of the process and it's part of the journey. That's the kind of shit that makes you grow. You don't grow when you're completely comfortable and completely happy, but at the same time, your goal should be being completely comfortable and completely happy in as many moments as you can in your life. So that's where I'm at. And we'll see where it goes, dude. Just got to keep keeping on, man, and see where it fucking goes. So I hope to have some more announcements for you soon. It's also impossible to really know what the fuck is next when other people are involved. So like I have a bunch of things in the works right now. Like I have a new song that should be coming out soon, but it's not done yet because other people have lives and schedules and things that they're working on too. So hopefully it'll be done soon. I need some things done to it that I don't do because I'm a hack. So soon the song will be done, and then soon after that it'll be out. And I like the song, I think. I haven't heard it in a while. That's another thing. Sometimes it's good to give yourself some time off to let your ears breathe. And like now I can kind of come back to some things I was working on with completely fresh ears and a new perspective after living life for a week and not only focusing on music. So I'm excited to kind of dive back in super hard over the next few months and make some things happen. But I appreciate you listening, and I appreciate you caring in whatever way that you do. If you listen to this podcast, you're supporting me in one way or another. So I really appreciate it. And I apologize for not being here for a week, but whatever. We got to live our lives, man. I have to remember. I got to remember. I got this. You got to remember you got this. And if not, we got this. We got this together. We got each other's backs, all that good stuff. Keep pushing, man. You got it. 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 I'm trying to remind myself that too, but you do. It's all good. Everything's going to work out. See what this mug says from Target? This is real life. Things will work out. And it's true. Things will work out if you let them. So keep doing you. I got this. You got this. We got this. Thank you again for listening. And I promise I'll see you next week. Peace out.